Welcome to another webinar by Technion Australia, where we give you the opportunity to tap into the world of our scientists and researchers and alumni who for over 100 years have been developing applications and research that is shaping the world. In fact, exactly 109 years ago today, we celebrate the laying of the cornerstone of the Technion, which is Israel's first university. This symbolizes the first step of training and educating the future states, engineers, scientists, entrepreneurs, and change makers. My name is Ori Danieli, and I am the CEO of Technion Australia, which is the representative arm of the Technion, Israel's Institute of Technology. With many of Israel's greatest inventions and discoveries credited to the Technion, it is often regarded as the backbone of Israel's claim to fame as the startup nation. In Australia specifically, we're part of a global network with a mission to support the Technion by encouraging philanthropic support and promoting research collaboration. I want to start by acknowledging our event partners today, which is the University of Sydney, which is Australia's first university, established in 1850, and among the world's leading universities. And our second partner today is Meeting for Minds, which is a not-for-profit organization and platform for sharing knowledge and collaboration and understanding of mental illness and disorders of the brain. On that note, we are very honored today to be hosting three leading medical and mental health experts. Professor Hickie from the Sydney University's Brain Institute, Professor Dorit Ben-Shachar, who is from the Department of Neuroscience and Biological Psychiatry at the Technion in Israel, and the discussion will be moderated by Dr. Norman Swan, who is ABC's medical journalist and among Australia's leading medical journalists. They will share insight into a brain with mental disorders. And it's my great privilege to welcome Dr. Norman Swan, who will moderate the conversation and formally welcome our speakers. Thank you. Over to you, Norman.
So thanks, Ori, and thank you very much to you all for joining us. Thanks, Ian, and thanks, Dorit from Haifa.
Our hypothesis was, actually, I was working on other things, and when I joined the psychiatric department, I was working on, pure science, nothing to do with clinicians and clinical aspects. And so I joined the psychiatric disorder, and they were very bored from what I did. It didn't interest them. So I decided to do something clinical. And since I was working with mitochondria, I thought maybe I'll take some mitochondria from patients, psychotic patients, and try whether there is any change in the first complex, any dysfunction in this mitochondria comparing to healthy controls. And my hypothesis was that neurons are heavy consumers of energy and highly dependent on it, and that abnormal energy production in neurons can lead to distorted neuronal network connectivity and thereby to abnormal behavior. So I took 5 patients, blood from 5 patients with acute psychosis and 5 healthy subjects, and measured some functions of the mitochondria, and I saw that they were completely abnormal and impaired. So I thought maybe it's a beginner luck, and I took 5 more, and then I saw the same thing again. So this led me to this road of mitochondrial research. And actually, I think we were among the very first to show that there is this function of mitochondria, this powerhouse in brains of in schizophrenia, not only in brain but also in peripheral tissues. Every tissue that we measured was that showed this dysfunction.
I mean, this is fascinating because, you're first of all, there's branching, networking. You can see there's a lot of deficits in people with schizophrenia, and also injecting maternal rats, mothers. I mean, there's the hot theory in schizophrenia is that mothers might get infected with a viral infection and something goes on in the immune system of the brain.
So there's a number of aspects of Dorit's work which are worth emphasising. One is starting with humans. I really like to start with humans. There's a whole lot of neuroscience worldwide that starts with molecules or cells or circuits or rats and has no chance of ever arriving at human behaviour, like building the brain from the cell up. The good part is about starting with humans and going backwards, as Dorit's doing. You're picking something that's abnormal. So whether this abnormal in mitochondria is cause or effect, there's a problem with the energy translation system. The second really important bit is to attach that to development. So as you've just alluded to, Norman, nearly every developmental theory of schizophrenia says something goes wrong in the process of development. And one of the most commonly explored reasons is exposure of the child while in utero, while in the mother's tummy as a fetus, to immune activation, commonly by viral infection. Fascinating as we're now living in the COVID world, we have a huge amount of actual viral exposure going on. But looking back at past viral epidemics and exposures in countries, there's clearly some relationships with immune activation in certain phases of intrauterine development when the brain's developing. And then the next bit that Dorit's emphasised is you see the effect of that most then in adolescence. So the effect of that isn't immediately obvious in childhood, but in behavioural development when the immune system and the brain are undergoing another stage of development in adolescence. So a lot of Dorit's work fits with ideas about possible causes, the role of immune activation, the timing of that, and the critical aspect of this neuronal branching. And most theories of brain development, their relationships with behaviour these days, talk about brain circuitry. How does that branching form into the circuits that control emotion, cognition, our physiological function? I think what surprises people in the mental health area continuously is actually that something is wrong at the physiological level, at the brain level, and at these circuitry levels, and certainly the developmental approach, and then the whole issue of branching and forming of connections, and we've all got to maintain them. We don't just get them, we've got to maintain them throughout our life to stay well.
So Ian, Dorit, thank you very much. That's fascinating and a lot and full of promise. So thank you both very much. Fascinating discussion.